Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about this very important visit of the Prime Minister Imran Khan to Saudi Arabia and where he addressed Pakistan-Saudi Investment Forum also. He had said that the Pakistan and Chinese relationship, it's really growing at a very faster rate and is perhaps one of the best in the region. It's an example. He also said that Pakistan enjoys brotherly relations with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. There is a historical perspective to that also. They have always helped us whenever Pakistan needed them. They've always stood by us. Pakistan is the fastest growing country in Asia in the past, and we will be in fact following the same pace. We lost our way due to wrong policies of the past rulers. Prime Minister mentioned that also. And then talking about Kashmir, he also said that the only core issue between Pakistan and India is perhaps the issue of Kashmir. And Pakistan has offered vast opportunities for investment. I mean, that was regarding the investment and trade area. And other than that, primarily the focus was about going green. And the Prime Minister has addressed the Middle Eastern Green Initiative Summit, where he said that we share experience of planting trees. This concept of billion trees tsunami was also shared this. And he said that Pakistan is among the top 10 most vulnerable countries which are getting affected because of the climate change and global warming. He also mentioned that Pakistan has decided that 60%, mind you, 60% of the energy that will be used by 2030 would be the green energy. No coal would be used by that time. And he also mentioned that we are shifting from coal-based power projects to hydel, and also towards there's a shift regarding the air turbines that also provide energy, 1 megawatt per fan, let me put it that way. And also talking about the other variables which are perhaps the most important now in today's world. I'll just give you one example. I happened to travel to the Northern Europe, and I'm talking about Scandinavia and Oslo in particular. I'm talking about exactly 2 years ago. 57% of the cars which were being used or which were on the road in Norway were all electric cars. Just imagine, this is the kind of concept they have. So a lot of advantages are also, you don't have to pay tax, you don't have to pay the parking charges, you don't have to pay the toll plaza taxes there. I mean, this is perhaps the way forward. And if Pakistan wants that by 2030, 60% of the energy that is going to be produced in Pakistan would be green energy, I think that is a great statement, but a lot needs to be done, because this is a challenge and a half. And then he also mentioned that the natural parks and the overall areas, that has also been extended by 50%. Now, that is also a good initiative, and it has resulted in 85,000 new jobs. So perhaps a lot is happening, because there is another statement that due to the climate change, around 4 to 5% of the overall growth rate is affected in the developing countries. So you can well imagine, if that area is taken care of, countries would really progress at a much faster rate and faster pace. To talk about this, let me quickly introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio on my right is Dr. Ziaul Haq Saab. He's the director of CASS CAST. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. And we have with us Air Vice Marshal retired Ijaz Malik Saab, who is a senior analyst and also a master's in disaster management. AVM Saab, pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much for your time. And we have with us Ali Sarwar Naqvi Saab, former ambassador, senior diplomat. Ali Sarwar Naqvi is joining us on Skype. Naqvi Saab, pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you so much for your time also. Now, sir, a lot has been said, but I think once Donald Trump, in fact, shied away from this Paris Club, sir, if you remember that entire process where a lot of first world countries were working together and contributing towards going green. And he said, well, this is not our problem, though America is one of those countries which is producing the maximum number of emissions, you know, when you talk about it. Number 2 is again China, followed by the Americans. Now, sir, but countries like Pakistan, unfortunately, countries like Bangladesh, they will be affected. If you have seen, sir, the weather pattern has changed. The monsoon is shifting from the east to the west. We are having unbelievable amount of rain in areas where we never experienced before. And sometimes there are certain areas which are in a drought kind of a situation because there is no rain. Everything is changed. Glaciers are melting from the top, and a lot of clean water is being wasted and going in the sea. No dams have been made yet. I mean, cutting of trees is another issue, sir. pollution has become another problem. Ozone layer is also getting affected. Rather, it is affected. I mean, there's a long list. The world is going green, sir. And let's start off from CPEC, sir. Most of these energy projects are primarily coal-based, sir. We are going towards that direction from where the first world countries are moving away. Let's start off from there, sir. And this particular target, 20, 30, 60% of the energy, you're talking about 8 years from now, sir. Is that an achievable target, sir? Or don't you think it's kind of over statement or something of that sort?
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you for inviting on a very, very important subject. I think it was a mistake at the first place to go for coal-based projects, and that too on the imported coal. This was the biggest mistake of the previous government which they made. Had they done it for the local coal, it would have been still fine. But what present government now is trying to do is that they have cancelled that one of the 2400 megawatt project of Sahiwal, which would have been on the imported coal, into a 3700 megawatt hydel power. And whatever coal power projects now would go on in Pakistan, they will be on gasification, and that will be out of Thar coal, which is indigenous, and it will be converted into gasified coal, and then it will be utilized for the
Is it the same project, sir, which was mentioned by Dr. Samar Mubarak?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But at that time we were not accepting it. But now it has proved, because the two projects have already working, and the third one was, I think, a day before approved by the Sindh government, that the phase 3 they are starting with the phase 3. So it is going on that side. Coming back to Prime Minister's speech, I think just 1 hour back,
Sure.
he is fast emerging as a green leader in the world, because he is championing this cause of to fight climate change, and it is not that he is doing it now. We have seen his picture when he was a cricketer planting trees from that time onwards. So he had that kind of passion, because he has travelled the entire north on foot, as he says, and is written over, I think, 6 books. So that is the passion, because you cannot do such projects unless you are passionate about them, and he is passionate. I understand what you are hinting at, that this is too ambitious, 2030 converting into 60%. Yes, it is too ambitious, but who would have believed that his 1 billion tree tsunami, when he only had the power in the KP province, would be successful?
Correct.
But it did. Why? Because if you work with passion, especially on these things,
It is a lot of dedication, a lot of passion, and a lot of
Absolutely.
human resource, sir. As they mentioned, that 85,000 new jobs have been created just for this purpose, AVM Saab. It is perhaps one of the leading initiatives, sir, especially in countries like Pakistan. Now, another issue, sir, when we talk about going green, sir, you talk about hydel, you talk about wind energy. Sir, we have also learned there is about 50, this is the capacity I'm talking about, 1,000 kilometers of your coastal area, starting from Karachi all the way to Gwadar, sir, and in between, it can produce 50,000 megawatts of energy, sir. You talk about Kashmir, the Azad Kashmir area I'm talking about, sir, they have a lot of potential. If we make small dams there, it can also produce around 50 to 70,000 megawatts of energy. Forget about coal for a while, sir. Forget about hydel, which is currently. But in fact, the most important area is about not having only energy, it's about having affordable energy, sir, especially when you talk about production and increasing your exports. Another area, sir, KPK, that can produce up to 80,000 to 100,000 megawatts if properly utilized. Further down, sir, in Sindh and Balochistan, you have got multiple options as well. But, sir, when we talk about dependency on, number one, imported crude oil, sir, you know where the prices are and where will be most likely they'll be, let's suppose, in another year's time if the production stays the same and the demand multiplies after corona. And this is what exactly is happening. Or perhaps, sir, another about gas. We are still, sir, we're a energy thirsty country, sir. Gone are the days when we used to depend on sui gas and all those reserves. Things have changed. And if you're looking at some sort of a growth which can prevent Pakistan from the economic collapse, you need to have at least 15 to 18% annual growth in your energy requirements, sir. So, sir, if that is the case, sir, this is the right equation which we are following?
Actually, as Dr. Saab has mentioned, we just have to see it in a historical perspective. Our energy mix for power generation was reasonably well planned in 60s and 70s. We had a mix of hydel and thermal plants, and it was within those tolerable limits of sourcing. But then somehow, because of the political expediencies, the government, successive governments, Faisal, they have, they wanted, election years were there, so they diverted the CPEC funding for coal project. The coal projects which could come on ground before the election, or which could yield them some political mileage. So they just, I would say it was a myopic thinking on their part. And a country like Pakistan, which has tremendous potential, as you have mentioned, because of our diversity in terms of terrain, we have tremendous potential for the hydel, run of the river projects, small projects, bigger projects. We can create energy in AJK as well as in KP. Then we have bright sunshine for most of the time in most part of the country. Then an air corridor in Thatta district and on the coastal belt. We really have to tap all those resources. It is doable.
What seems to be the biggest hindrance, sir?
I think the focus of the government, where we have to encourage investors. Government's role is to facilitate in terms of policies and in terms of ease of doing business for people who can come here and invest because it is very cost effective. Talking about the wind corridors potential, yes, but the initial installation cost for windmill energy, it's very expensive. So
and the maintenance cost too, sir, because you go to Denmark, you go to Holland for that matter, sir, it's unbelievable. They have those, I call them the solar fans.
Yeah.
So you'll see them even in the sea.
Yes, I mean anywhere and everywhere, but we are gifted with such a diverse terrain, diverse weather condition. I think if we really go on alternate energy, renewable energy, and as you are rightly mentioned, economic growth is directly dependent on energy growth. So many industries from Pakistan have shifted to places which were offering them better sustainable.
Bangladesh, Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, exactly. Multinationals have invested in those countries just because they could ensure sustainable supply of energy source. So we really have to focus, and I think we are fortunate that present government, although a lot needs to be done, but actually the matter is of the orientation, because these projects are strategic projects, they are time taking, and if your focus is only on next election, probably no government would take that risk. But this government is doing so many things which we must appreciate, that which may not directly affect them in the 2023 election, but for the coming generations that will be very fortunate.
And I think, sir, energy is the real deal now. Why do countries invade other countries? Perhaps not for only minerals, for hydrocarbon,
Exactly.
I would say those hydrocarbon, huge, I mean, that's a huge investment. Look at Afghanistan, look at so many other countries, sir. When you talk about oil, perhaps, yes, it is, that is what we used to call the black oil, sir. But now everything is shifting towards the electric batteries and all. Lithium, for that matter, is going to be a future black gold. And this is what is happening all over the world, sir. I mean, nobody ever thought that a mobile phone battery is going to last that long. Or perhaps cars would be running at 140, 50 miles an hour on solar or on electric batteries, for example, Tesla is right in front of you, huge example. So going green is all about the future, sir. But another very important, I would say, variant is about the atomic energy, sir. I think that is also very important. You look at Canada, look at USA, look at France, Britain, so many other countries, even China perhaps. And that is where you can invest first, but you can produce a lot of energy. So let's go to Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi Saab, since he has also been working with the IAEA and also is well aware of about the projects regarding the atomic energy, and perhaps one of those, I would say, senior bureaucrats who happen to have that kind of a grip on this particular issue. So let's talk about Pakistan is a nuclear country, sir. Everybody thought that, you know, nuclear is only about having a bomb, but it is used in medicine and so many other projects, and energy perhaps is one of the most important, sir. With the collaboration of the Chinese, I think Pakistan has done a brilliant job. The kind of like Chashma, for that matter, 1, 2 or 3, or, you know, a couple of other projects, they are a few are already in use, few will be in use in the future. Now, sir, don't you think that is another area, if there is some sort of a problem, since we have really capitalized on that particular front and we have gained a lot of knowledge, a lot of information, a lot of expertise also. How about that, sir? Naqvi Saab.
Faisal, that you have raised the issue of nuclear energy. You see, we are known as the country with the quote-unquote bomb, but that is absolutely erroneous, because Pakistan is one of the most advanced developing countries with a very diverse and extensive peaceful uses program in nuclear energy. And the principal element of our peaceful uses program is power generation. Now, in power generation, nuclear energy is part of the energy mix that was being talked about a little while ago. We have, at the moment, we contribute roughly about 5% to the energy mix through nuclear energy. But this is going to change, and thanks to the Chinese government, which is very helpful in this regard, because in Karachi, 2 big power plants of more than 1,000 megawatts, K2 and K3, each of 700 to 1,200 megawatts, is we will have a good, you see, a very good contribution from nuclear energy. And nuclear energy power is clean energy. It is free of all the harmful effects of energy production. So in addition to wind, to hydro, which are also very good, solar power, I think nuclear energy is also one area where Pakistan happens to have a considerable expertise and fully developed ability, which is not true in the case. So I think, yes, you have highlighted nuclear energy, and I, of course, I served as ambassador to the IAEA, and I now even now coming back to the Prime Minister's visit, I think the important thing that I want to make the very quickly is that Pakistan was kept out of the climate summit called by President Biden. So
I remember,
I think here is our opportunity to be in the green diplomacy, and to be in green diplomacy at the summit level. And I think we should thank our friends, the Saudi government, and particularly Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for
your voice is breaking up, Naqvi Saab. We'll just get back to you on that, sir. Now coming back to you, Zia Saab, talking about how the cities are expanding, sir. Let's take the example of Islamabad. Forget about Karachi or Lahore for a moment, sir. Karachi isn't green anymore. It's more of a concrete city like Los Angeles. You talk about Lahore, sir, it's expanding in all the directions, even towards Ravi now. Sir, the kind of trees, the old, I would call them the historic trees, sir, they have been cut. Forget about what happened due to the orange train, to the overall cultural aspect of Lahore, sir. That is also very, very unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Let's talk about Islamabad, sir. Such a beautiful green city. Rawalpindi in Islamabad, this place was known for its beauty, sir. Then we got to know about this New Murray project. Millions of trees were cut. You talk about the timber mafia in the north, you exactly know what is going on, sir. And I was surprised and shocked to know that when Pakistan came into being, our part of Kashmir was almost 40% forest. Now it's only 4%. So that tells you the story. Forget about the population growth. Everything gets disturbed, the entire ecosystem. Over here, sir, when you talk about alternatives of wood, sir, nobody's talking about that. People would prefer buying expensive wood to have furniture or to construct houses for that matter, but nothing of that sort has been done. Culturally, maybe it is not accepted or something. And sir, at the same time, when you look at a tree that takes about 20-25 years to grow and to serve you eventually, sir, it takes hardly 25 minutes to cut it. This is the dilemma, unfortunately, sir. Government has placed so many laws and rules, but nothing has happened because these are all mafias. We haven't heard anybody who was sentenced or sent to jail on these charges. But sir, the unfortunate part is that in the future, we'll be requiring a lot of trees, a lot of greenery to control not only the weather or the climate change or perhaps the erosion or the landslides. It's about the environment, sir. Look at the amount of fog or smog, as you call it, sir, in Lahore, highest in the world. Forget what Indians are doing, sir. What I'm saying, what we are doing is more important for us. They are our adversary. They would always do whatever would pinch us. But sir, this is the first government perhaps, sir, which has really thought over this very important issue, has made a ministry, and then Amin Aslam Saab is another very important member of the Prime Minister's cabinet, and he's a very hard-working person and totally dedicated for this kind of a job, sir. We did it right, but it took us a lot of time, almost 77 years, sir.
Faisal Saab, it really pains me when I have to accept.
Let's also talk about the town planning.
I'm coming to that. It really pains me when I have to accept that we have not been behaving as a civilized nation, unfortunately. And one reason which I can trace, you asking Malik Saab also the same question, it is domestic politics. Unfortunately, in the past 4 decades or so, the domestic politics had been dynastic in Pakistan. There were 2 families only. And they had their own priorities. None of the two looked into any of these aspects that you are talking about, isn't it?
Correct, sir.
For example, environment. I'll give you just 3 examples. We had expertise in managing an international airline, that is PIA. We had the regional airlines to develop, and where are we today? We are
Nowhere.
Nowhere.
Absolutely.
Second example, extraction of gas, Sui gas in the 60s. We had expertise in gas exploration. Today, we are gas deficient country, isn't it? Why? Because we do not follow it up, isn't it? And third one is climate change, the trees, the forests. Prime Minister keeps on talking about that. When he was growing up, there were jungles in Lahore, there were jungles in Kundiya, there were jungles in Azad Kashmir, the Murray, you could not see the hill.
Sir, most of these huge areas were full of trees. Now they are all the housing colonies. And unfortunately, no local, or I would say, the tree of that particular area has been planted. I mean, why to have trees from Karachi and they're being planted in Potohar? I mean, it doesn't make sense at all. When I was growing up, sir, we had so many fruit trees in our house. So many of them. And we used to climb and nobody even bothers about that, sir. The houses are like concrete blocks. This is what is happening.
But since I am an optimistic person, so I will not go back too much in the history. Let's come back now. Within last 3 years, look at the number of initiatives that the present government has taken in this regard, isn't it? as I said before also, is emerging fast as a green prime minister, and Pakistan is emerging fast as a green leader at the global level, not even at the regional level. Look at this
These
Middle East
speeches were
initiative.
always hailed in the United Nations also.
Absolutely. Look at this green initiative in the Middle East. I have lived in Middle East and I know how difficult it is to grow a plant over there. How much of manpower is required, how much of water is required, which is deficient. They have to treat the sea water, which is very expensive, and then plant these trees. Isn't it? But they are doing it because they wanted to greenize their deserts, and now it is practically manifesting. So we have the expertise, and that is what Prime
Nobody
Minister
even
has
thought of having those lush green cricket grounds in UAE.
said. Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying. If there is a will, there is a way. Okay. So his initiatives, I think, largely appreciated. Look at the 10 billion tree tsunami initiative. Look at the olive green initiative. Look at the honey bee green initiative. Okay. All these initiatives, as Malik Saab said, he is not looking at the next election. If the Mengai continues like this, is perhaps stand no chance coming back in the next election only because of the inflation. But he is looking for the future of Pakistan. Okay, he may not be there in power after 2023 if the inflation continues like that. But he is not looking at that election. He is looking at Pakistan 2030 and beyond. And that is why all these initiatives convert into hydel power generation, building so many dams, that is 10 dams in next 10 years. And none will be ready before the next election. So
But
it's
sir,
not
there's
looking
another
at
point.
those.
There's another point, sir. Before I go to Naqvi Saab, he wanted to complete his argument.
Sure,
in fact,
sure.
the point is, sir, that when you're looking at, or rather, you're totally depending on the hydel. I mean, to a certain extent. Let's say you really want to take it up to 60% or something. Sir, the kind of checks or the dams that have been built or are being built in India, that is particularly, primarily to choke Pakistan. Look at what happened to river Kabul, for that matter. I mean, the water table is also going down at the same time. A lot of other issues are evolving, sir. Another example I'll give you, that Lahore again, I mean, there was this global test. And the city of Lahore, in fact, again, resurfaced with a very, very unfortunate perspective. It said that the number of people living in Lahore and the amount of water they use or they misuse or they waste is the highest in the world, sir. I mean, these are basic practices. You're shaving, your tap is open. You can use one bucket to take shower, but you need to keep it open for 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, these are practices also, sir. I think that is also very important. I'll come back to that, sir. But let me go back to Ambassador Ali Sarwar Naqvi Saab. Naqvi Saab, yes, please complete your argument, sir. Sorry we had to cut you. There was some problem in the communication. Anyways.
Yes, I think there was some problem with the internet.
Please go ahead,
Faisal,
sir.
I was saying that this participation of the Prime Minister in the Green Summit in Riyadh is important for the reason that there has been an attempt by the West, particularly by the United States, to cut out Pakistan from the global focus on climate change. Now, Biden did not invite Pakistan to the climate summit that he had held on Zoom, on virtual summit. Now, there is this next summit of COP26 that is coming up in Glasgow, and I haven't heard of Pakistan being invited to that as well. So here is our opportunity. We should now capitalize, and I think the Prime Minister is doing that by making a very effective speech tonight to assert our role. And as we are one of the 10 most affected climate change countries, most affected by climate change, I think we have to assert our role and grab our initiative to play an active role in the global picture. That having been said, I think the Prime Minister is indeed doing a lot of things in regard to climate change challenges that Pakistan is inevitably going to face. And there, the energy problem is the biggest problem. So, coming back to what you said, I was going to conclude by saying that on the energy front, a lot of things are being done, and we have to push forward for the next so many years, particularly the dams. The dams will take they have a long gestation period. They will take a long time, 10 to 15 years, and the government must stand committed to that effort.
All right. Now, Vim Saab, another, whenever you talk about the security of any country, and particularly let's talk about Pakistan, we would say, well, there are internal threats, there are external threats beyond the border, and then there are issues like, for example, food security, there are issues like water security, climate change has also become a part of that. So there are variable aspects. It's not only limited to the, sort of a threat that is being posed by the adversaries on the border. So it's about so many other important factors. So I still remember as a kid when you used to read about the crops of Pakistan, we would always very gracefully, say that, oh, these are the bumper crops of Pakistan. Cotton, for example. We used to talk about wheat. Now, sir, you talk about wheat, you're importing it. The kind of population growth that we are experiencing, it's not under 2%, sir, it's around 3%. This is what I personally believe. Perhaps there could be like slight plus minus or errors. But, sir, look at the global population growth. Let's compare Pakistan with countries like which had similar population, like Japan. There was a time and they were almost they had the same number of people living in Pakistan. Bangladesh, a couple of other countries, but so they have been able to control their population and they have been able to make sure that their per capita income also increases and everything stays very much constant. When it comes to Pakistan, sir, forget about the population growth, sir. The way these cities are expanding, I mean, earlier mentioned, sir, no, there is no check at all. Look at Karachi, sir. I mean, encroachments, and at the end of the day, if 50 ml rain hits Karachi, sir, there is a complete, it's more or less like a river or Venice kind of a feeling which you get even from Lahore now. Town planning, sir. Long-term approach regarding making new cities. Like in 1960, Islamabad was made next to Pindi. Islamabad never converted into Islam, or rather, but currently, say you start off from Rawat, go all the way till Wah, you go to Murree, and on the other side, thank God, we have got these mountains. So there was a plan of making a tunnel there as well, sir, so that you could join Haripur with Islamabad. My point is, sir, these projects, new Murree projects, sir, forget about everything else. These are disastrous. Sir, population growth, yes, it is a huge problem. Youngsters, look at the population in terms of youth, it's around 60-65%. These are the people who are going to reproduce. So you can see the baby boomer concept of post Second World War. Something similar is happening here, sir. But only by planting trees or looking after some affairs, sir, there is going to be water shortage. Water table has gone down many folds. So many other issues, sir. There's a long list I can give you. Do we have any plans, sir? Or is it still something which we can control, or is it like, let it go now?
Actually, we need total behavioral change. As you had mentioned, what our adversary is doing with our eastern rivers, that is understandable. What are we doing with our own water? You see, we don't value this commodity.
Absolutely.
For something like evolution,
drinking water.
For something like evolution, for which we have a saying of Holy Prophet that even if you are sitting beside a river, you should not waste water for the wuzu. And what we are doing, unimaginable, because we don't value, we don't pay the bill. Mostly it's a fixed rate, and wherever we are paying, it is so negligible that we don't value. But the same person who opens the tab for shaving or brushing, once he buys a bottled water, and he or she would pick up that bottle half consumed and carry it along from restaurant, because now that person feels that I have paid, so I should not waste this bottled water.
The value of water.
They value water because they have paid, 30, 40 odd rupees for that bottle. We don't mind taking, that bottle out from even a 5-star hotel. But what we are doing in the same 5-star hotel for a shower or for, ablution or for brushing or shaving, we need a behavioral change. And population growth is a problem. We are in a denial because of extreme right people, taking a very, I would say, unrealistic view on that. In today's world, population growth, which is officially around 2.5, we need to have an economy growth rate of about 9%. And we never had, we just barely touched it once in our lifetime. Otherwise, we never had that growth rate. So we need to.
Bangladesh is at 9% consistently, sir.
Because they have implemented policy for coming generations. Their focus was not on political things. And while we are talking about the present government's initiative, I think we must also give them credit that they have included the Go Green project in the CPEC as well. Otherwise, the first phase of the CPEC was a disaster for the climate change and environment. So I think the present government is doing, but as a community, as a nation, if at all we are a nation by any definition, we need to think that what are we leaving, because the definition of sustainability is that what are we using,
Sir,
and what
water
are we
consumption
leaving.
is again something very important. I still remember these gardeners would keep the pipe there, and that particular area would be like literally filled, flooded, I would say. Do we need that kind of water
We
for
are
that particular
probably
plant?
now.
I mean, we need to understand
We
where
are
the world is
the
going.
only country maybe who are ruthless in irrigation. You see, we are still doing the flood irrigation. As Dr. Saab has mentioned about his experience of Middle East, they are
Sprinkling.
using sprinkler system, they are using drip irrigation, which even measures down to the micron levels, and only as much water is given as is required for any crop or
Any plant.
any
Yeah,
plant.
yeah.
And they are not wasting. But we in an acreage area, for example, if I have an orchard, I start from the tree which is closest to the water channel, and the entire acre, it is flooded. So
is actually
the
flooded.
first tree actually gets maybe 20 times more water than it's required. Although there is a realization, but we need to campaign for that. I think climate change or SDG, they cannot be achieved, these objectives, unless each one of us as individual, we perform our national obligation.
So don't you think, you talked about the behavioral change, sir, don't you think, I mean, you can't just inculcate that in a kid when the kid is 18 years old.
It has to be in
to
schools.
start from the
It
beginning.
has to be in
so the
the
kids
schools.
should be taught that, okay, like for example, my son, he planted a tree, it's a silver oak tree, and that is still in that pot. So, but he makes sure that he would see that. I don't know lately during the corona whether he is or not, but I mean, that was an assignment. And eventually, I have planted so many trees myself, and I feel so proud that, see, this is what I've done. I mean, it has to be inculcated. Like you go to Scandinavia, go to countries like Finland, sir, the first 4, 5, 6 years of the student or the kid, I mean, he is so much into nature. I mean, they would take them out. They would tell him, this is the tree, this is what it does, it's a fruit tree, this is what it is, and this is how, this is an indigenous one, this is something which was imported. The kids would know so much about animals, and they would know about botany and so much more. What I'm saying is, sir, that don't you think that we should also, have something of that sort at the very, very basic level?
We must.
Kids
And
should be encouraged.
in all developing countries, developed countries, in fact, they are even giving the credit hours to the students who contribute for conservation or for wildlife protection or for environment protection. And a country like ours, where we have tremendous human resource available and massive unemployment, why can't we capitalize on the same human resource to have a sustainable
This is
development
exactly
model?
what they are doing in China, sir. The kind of, I mean, I'll call that a miracle. Miracles are happening in China, sir. The kind of, concept they have about going green. I mean, it's unbelievable. You travel in hundreds and hundreds of miles, you'll see trees all around you, similar trees in such a beautiful symmetry. I mean, that is what it is all about. Over here, sir, the moment we start expanding roads because of the population growth, because of the traffic, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
In Pakistan, actually the trees are the first victim of any development project. Can you imagine in Islamabad, this metro project, its environment impact assessment was signed, in fact done partially after the project completion.
Very
Because in that era, the projects were given on stick-on sheets, you know, a secretary would get a stick-on sheet signed or initialed by CM or Prime Minister, and the project was, you know,
Handed over.
running. And nobody ever bothered to have environment impact assessment of this project. And this was only done as a eyewash post commissioning of the project.
And this is the burning of trees. Let's talk about Margala, sir. I fail to understand what happens there, sir, because if somebody has cut 2-3 trees so that, you know, that particular family can look after the affairs for about, or let's say for the next or coming approaching winter. But sir, whenever a fire erupts, normally 90% of the time it's done on purpose. And thousands of trees, you know, when you look at those mountains and they're burning, I mean, honestly, sir, it really hurts. It really hurts here. But nobody's pushed, nobody's bothered. God knows where the wildlife people are. Nobody's ever been caught because, again, the domestic people from one village, the indigenous people voting and no voting, and the Bradri, everything comes in and nothing happens.
Faisal, I said it before also. It pains me when I say that we are living in a country where you cannot force an individual to put on a helmet on the motorbike, although it is for his safety.
Absolutely. Sir.
Isn't
Even a
it?
seatbelt.
Isn't it? We are living in a country where you cannot give polio drops without having an escort with you.
These
Isn't
are
it?
realities, sir.
We are living in a country where vaccination for COVID-19 is an issue, and where you have to persuade people that please have it vaccinated, isn't it? So we are to blame ourselves, but it has all happened in last 40 years primarily due to domestic politics of two dynastic families. Now, in last 3 years, you can see the change, that this present government is looking, at least talking about these things.
A lot has been done also,
Earlier
sir.
these things were not even discussed, isn't it? Now what Malik Saab is saying, that the environmental impact is seen well before the project is even on the drawing stage. It was not happening before.
Absolutely, sir. I totally agree, sir.
Isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it will take time. It will take time.
So it will take time, provided we start off on ASAP basis, on war footing, sir. That is what the requirement
I would
is.
say if we have started off already, only then we will see the result in next 3 to 5
Absolutely,
years.
sir, because there is no, I mean, you can't just force a tree to go in a year as compared to 10 years. So, very interesting last question for Ambassador Saab. I don't know, it's just popping up inside me, so I would like to ask him. Ambassador Saab, you have lived most of your life in Islamabad, and you have traveled so much because you were in foreign service. Sir, have you ever seen a capital like Islamabad where there is no zoo? The elephant went crazy after living, or rather serving jail imprisonment for 30 years. So
Yeah.
thanks to Cheryl, that that elephant was eventually taken out of Pakistan.
Yeah.
The lion, which used to live here, sir, was practically burnt alive because of the super educated staff looking after that particular, sir. He was fed dead chicken, which used to cost 8 rupees a kg because the actual meat was going somewhere else. I'm giving you the practical, actual examples, and I've put these questions to the Minister of State for Climate Change also. Now, the problem is, sir, on one end, we don't even have a zoo. My kid, if he wants to see an elephant, sir, I'll have to take him to Lahore. You know, I'm just giving you one example. So when this is the kind of progress that you have shown, I'm talking about Islamabad, sir, and I'm talking about F6, F7. Sir, are we totally geared up to go totally green by year 2020, or 60% of that, sir?
First,
With the kind of bricklanes we have, the kind of rickshaws that we see in Lahore, and the kind of mindset that prevails, unfortunately?
First about the zoo, Faisal, my grandchildren come here regularly to visit us, and they always one of the first things they wanted to see was the zoo. So we used to go to the Marghazar Zoo, particularly for my grandchildren. But now that zoo doesn't exist. So they were most disappointed when they came here earlier this month, and they had their 1 week break, and they could not go to the zoo. So unfortunately, this city does not have a zoo anymore. Yes, you are right. I mean, we have no interest, you see, in nature. The people use nature mainly for serving their needs as they may need to do, but there is no special interest in seeing things flourish, in seeing animals happy, in seeing birds fly. We just don't have that, and we have to inculcate that particular faculty of our nation to appreciate these things. This is nature. You know, even our religion talks about nature in glowing terms. Surah Rahman, and so many surahs in the holy book in Quran Sharif. So we as a nation have to develop this faculty of appreciation.
I totally agree with you, sir, but I have to cut you here. Ambassador Saab, so sorry, because we don't have much time left. And since you talked about, you gave an example of the religion, sir, and I still remember the brother of Maulana Fazlur Rahman, Maulana Ataur Rahman, was once made the environment minister, sir. And honestly speaking, I asked him about the ecosystem, and he had no clue. He had no clue whatsoever, but he was the federal minister. So if this is the kind of commitment any government had earlier, we should not expect anything. So anyway, Naqvi Saab, thank you so much for your time. AVM Saab, was a pleasure having you. Zia Saab, it's always great to have you on the show, sir. So that's all we have for this, sir. I'll see you inshallah tomorrow at 8:05. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.